The assembly will come to order. The chief clerk will call the roll.
Assemblywoman Anderson. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Assemblywoman Black. Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblywoman Carlton. Assemblywoman Cohen. Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblywoman Dickman. Assemblywoman Duran. Assemblyman Ellison. Assemblyman Flores. Assemblyman Flores. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblywoman Gorlo. Assemblyman Hathen. Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman Howdigi. Assemblywoman Kasama. Assemblywoman Krasner. Assemblyman Levitt. Assemblywoman Martinez. Assemblywoman Marzola. Assemblyman Matthews. Assemblyman MacArthur. Assemblywoman Brittany Miller. Assemblyman C.H. Miller. Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. Assemblywoman Nguyen. Assemblyman O'Neill. Assemblyman Orentlicker. Assemblywoman Peters. Assemblyman Roberts. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblywoman Thomas. Assemblywoman Titus. Assemblywoman Tolles. Assemblywoman Torres. Assemblyman Watts. Assemblyman Wheeler. Assemblyman Yeager. Assemblyman Flores. Assemblywoman Gonzalez. Assemblyman Orentlicker. Speaker Frierson.
Here. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May the record reflect that we have 40 members present, 2 absent, excused.
There are 40 members present, 2 absent. There is a quorum. The assembly will please rise for the prayer by Elder Fred Dry of the Kaibab Band of Paiutes. Mr. Fred Dry is a full-blood Paiute elder from the Kaibab Band of Paiute. A career public servant, Mr. Dry retired from the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Western Nevada Agency in 2012. He concluded his professional career as the agency's tribal operations officer. Through his retirement, he still assists Nevada tribal nations with elections. Mr. Dry logged more than 33 years of service for the federal government, counting his service in the United States Army. Prior to being drafted in 1967, Mr. Dry attended several Indian boarding schools, including the one in Carson City, Nevada, the Stewart Indian Boarding School. Mr. Dry attended school and lived on campus during the 11th grade and half of the 12th grade. He graduated from Fredonia High School in 1965, then attended Chilocco Indian School in Oklahoma for heavy equipment training. He is the father of 3 children, 1 grandchild. He enjoys retirement by being with his family, walking and hiking almost every day, bowling in a league, and assisting tribes throughout northern Nevada. Elder Dry, if you could proceed with the prayer.
I do to heaven. That means good morning, my friends. Nevada State Legislature, thank you for allowing me to pray today. It is important to note that Native people have been attached to the Creator, the earth, the sun, the moon, and the environment since the beginning of time. Prayer is important to them for thanking the Creator for the lives they are living, asking for forgiveness, seeking comfort in hard times, and prayer in traditional gatherings. Let us pray. Dewipum Toromput. Teachup. Ampakayanav Himivichu. Imu Ukarabang Ampakahum. Ampakahum. Seniam Punikarava Mampakahum. Inchuachani to Wipper. Fire out to Punikarava. Ivakanidamong, Wukaramong. Marikaatsingung, Tukuramung, Nungu, Kutsingung, Kapaningung, Yuvantu Wukarum, Utsuniam, Unikaravam, Wukakum, Utuam Pakavam, Bachum Nanopoivangwe, Umahaini, Isung Ichu, the Whipum Pahipukanta, Utupanikaravam, Soichingum, Nanopoiramung, Utupanikaravam, Gachu Nahami, Nahami, Ayuva. Imu Ampakaramung, Utupanikaravam, Utu Ampakaram, Umampakaramung, Utu Muhuahaim, Pahenikarum, Utu Pahenike, Utu Ampakaha, Utu Kaha, Mansapanaihu. Thank you.
Thank you. Please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Can we go to order business 1?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Under Order Business 1, may the record reflect that Assemblyman Ornt-Lichter and Assemblywoman Gonzalez are present.
The record shall so reflect. Order business 2, reading and approval of the journal.
Carson City, Wednesday, February 10,
Mr. Speaker.
2021.
Assemblywoman Benitez-Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to dispense with further reading of the journal and authorize the Speaker and Chief Clerk to make necessary corrections or additions.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Go to order business 8, motions, resolutions, and notices.
Notice of exemption, February 11, 2021. The Fiscal Analysis Division pursuant to Joint Standing Rule 14.6 has determined the eligibility for exemption of Assembly Bills 29102. Sarah Kaufman, Fiscal Analysis Division.
Go to order business 9, introduction, first reading, and reference of bill.
Assembly Bill 111, introduced by Assemblyman Frierson et al. An act relating to peace officers, revising provisions relating to the Executive Director of the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblyman Flores.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 111 be referred to your hardworking Committee on Government Affairs.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 112, introduced by Assemblyman Marzola and Yeager. An act relating to minors, revising provisions related to compromised claims of a minor and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 112 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 113, introduced by Assemblyman Hardy et al., Senators Beck et al., an act relating to criminal procedure, providing that there is no limitation of time within which a criminal prosecution for sex trafficking must be commenced and providing other matters properly laid thereto.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 113 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 114, introduced by Assemblyman Nguyen et al., an act relating to motor vehicles, expanding the exemption for certain manufacturers of electric passenger cars from the requirement of establishing a franchise with a new vehicle dealer and certain requirements relating to the operation of such a franchise and providing other matters properly in there too.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 114 be moved to your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 115, introduced by Assemblyman Nguyen et al., Senator Scheibel et al., an act relating to parentage, authorizing a court to determine in certain circumstances that more than two people have a parent and child relationship with a child, establishing provisions concerning custody and visitation, adoption, and termination of parental rights in cases in which a child has more than two parents, requiring the committee to review child support guidelines, to review the guidelines established by regulation for the support of of one or more children to determine the amount of required support in cases in which a child has more than two parents, and provide any recommendations for revisions to the Administrator of the Division of Welfare and Supportive Services of the Department of Health and Human Services, requiring the Administrator to review and consider any such recommendations and revise or adopt any necessary regulations, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 115 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 116, introduced by Assemblyman Nguyen et al., Senators Canizaro et al., an act relating to vehicles, establishing civil penalties for certain traffic and related violations, defining certain traffic and vehicle violations as misdemeanors, creating procedures for civil infractions for traffic and related violations to be adjudicated, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Assemblyman Yeager.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 116 be referred to your Committee on Judiciary.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 117, introduced by Assemblyman Titus and Ellison, Senator Hansen, an act relating to wildlife, revising provisions relating to drawings for tags or permits to hunt certain species of wildlife, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 117 be referred to your Resourceful Committee on Natural Resources.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 118, introduced by Assemblyman Belgrade Axelrod et al., an act relating to motor vehicles, revising provisions relating to the transportation of children in motor vehicles, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 118 be moved to your Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Without objection, so referred.
Assembly Bill 119, introduced by Assemblywomen Thomas et al., Senators Neal et al., an act relating to maternal health, revising the duties of the Maternal Mortality Review Committee, and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Assemblywoman Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that Assembly Bill 119 be referred to your Committee on Health and Human Services.
Without objection, so referred. We now go to Order of Business 15, and I want to, under Order of Business 15, acknowledge that today, of course, we are celebrating Black History Month at the legislature. As a country, we have celebrated Black History Month every February since 1976. While we should lift up the accomplishments of our African American community every day, this month serves as a reminder to us all to celebrate the contributions of African American leaders who have helped build our state and our nation. While I serve as the first African American speaker in the State Assembly, I'm humbly aware that I'm here today because of all of those who came before me. In 1966, Nevada Assemblyman Woodrow Wilson became the first African American elected to serve in the legislature. In 1972, Senator Joe Neal became the first African American elected to serve in the state Senate. We lost Senator Neal last year on December 31st, 2020. In 1973, Senator Neal championed restoring rights to formerly incarcerated individuals, and because of his work, 46 years later, we were able to automatically restore voting rights to the formerly incarcerated. Senator Neal is survived by another trailblazer, his daughter, Senator Dina Neal. In 2010, Senator Dina Neal became the first African American woman, actually, she was not. Senator Bernice Martin Matthews in 1995 became the first African American woman in the state Senate. I know that our Congressman Stephen Horsford, who was also once a member of this body, became not only the first African American Senate Majority Leader in 2008, but also the first African American to represent Nevada in the United States House of Representatives in 2012. I know today I stand on the shoulders of the Black men and women that came before me. Like Senator Bernice Martin Matthews, like I said, in 1995, but also Assemblyman Wendell Williams, who was the first African American to serve in the Assembly as Speaker Pro Tem in 2001, and Assemblyman William Horn, who was the first African American to serve as Majority Leader of this body in 2007. Our newly elected Vice President, Kamala Harris, often talks about how her mother used to say, "Kamala, you may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last." I carry that same charge and want to do all I can to lift up others, empowering others to lead. I also carry the charge to champion equitable policies that allow our communities to succeed. I have been heartened in this body to see policies passed in a bipartisan manner that my predecessors could only have dreamed about. We've come a long way as a state and as a country, but we still have a long way to go. And I know that we can live up to the promise of this great nation by continuing to work together. Thank you again for allowing me to lead this body, following the footsteps of those who came before me. I only hope to leave this path better for those who come after me. So thank you very much. We now go to Assemblywoman Tolles.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. Order of Business 15.
Order.
Thank you. This Sunday is Valentine's Day, a day that we celebrate those that we love, but it is also known as Frederick Douglass Day. And although Douglas was born enslaved and never knew his birth date, he chose to celebrate every year on February 14th, which helped create, preserve, and celebrate Black History Month. While we celebrate our loved ones, let us also honor the freedom that allows all of God's children, created with certain inalienable rights, to pursue their hopes and dreams, grounded in equality. No one contributed to this cause more than Frederick Douglass, historically as one of the most influential abolitionists in American history. As we sit here in this chamber, another groundbreaking female majority, it's also wonderful to note, after celebrating the 100th anniversary of the women's right to vote, that Frederick Douglass was a fierce advocate for women's suffrage as well. Douglass self-emancipated by age 20 and became a brilliant orator, author, and advocate. As he railed against injustice and championed equality under the law, leading our nation to new heights in pursuit of liberty, justice, and freedom for all. I'd like to end with a quote by Frederick Douglass, who once said that people might not get all they work for in this world, but they must certainly work for all they get. And this Valentine's Day, as we honor our loved ones and honor his memory, may we also honor his life and legacy in this body by working hard in this legislative session together to ensure that every Nevadan has the opportunity to succeed. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And my colleagues have pointed out that while Senator Dina Neal was not the first to serve in the state Senate, she was the first African-American woman to serve in this body. We want to leave that out. Other order of business 15s. Assemblywoman Titus.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We also would like to honor those that you mentioned today, including yourself, Mr. Speaker. I just want to have a little sidebar here, and above the Speaker's podium in place of honor in this chamber is a portrait of Father of the Republican Party, President Abraham Lincoln. I would also like to tell the story of those bullet holes that are covered up in that and repaired in that portrait of Abraham Lincoln, for those who don't know this story. Congress began the process of Nevada statehood in March of 1864. We wrote a constitution, voted to approve it, and we sent it by telegraph to Washington on October 26. This was the longest and most expensive telegram ever sent at the time, costing $4,313.27, which is today $59,000 in today's value. We were admitted to the Union October 31st, 1864. It is a false conception that we were brought into the Union because of the need of our silver to finance the war. The real reason, imagine this, the real reason was politics. Nevada was a pro-unionist state of Lincoln Republicans. Early in 1864, the 13th Amendment to the Constitution abolishing slavery had passed in the Senate, but narrowly failed to get the two-thirds support in the House of Representatives. A Republican congressional delegation could provide additional votes needed to pass this landmark legislation. Nevada statehood was deemed of great importance by President Lincoln in order to make certain the abolition of slavery was a constitutional amendment. Ultimately, on January 31st, 1865, the 13th Amendment was approved on 119 to 56 votes, just 3 votes more than the necessary 2/3. So in Nevada, we are grateful to Lincoln. On the 50th anniversary of Nevada statehood, the Assembly passed a bill to procure an oil painting of Lincoln to honor the immortal, martyred president. The bill was passed on March 2nd, 1915, signed by the governor on March 11th, and on March 14th, the portrait by Charles Sheen was unveiled. In the words of Governor Emmett Boyle, the portrait should inspire legislators to give the people, when enacting legislation, the best that is in them. This portrait has become one of our state's most precious treasures. In the 1950s, while the building and grounds employee named Cy Meacham was busy cleaning the floors of the Capitol, he heard shots fired in the building. Several young men had been doing target practice on our Lincoln portrait. Mr. Meacham chased off the teenagers, but was unable to catch them. The employee nervously patched the bullet holes with paper and paste. In the late 1980s, it was professionally repaired, and if you look closely, you can see scars on his lapel of his coat, his elbow, and on his right forearm. In 1971, this building was completed, the building that we're in today, dedicated and open for business. Former Speaker Lawrence Jacobson of Douglas County, along with the wives of 2 assemblymen, decided that the portrait, which was still hanging in the Capitol, belonged in this room. The 3 of them marched over to the Capitol, got someone on the maintenance staff to take down the portrait, carried it back over here, and hung it where it is, in this chamber. There were some phone calls and newspaper editorials saying that the portrait did not belong to the Assembly, but in the end, possession is 9/10 of the law, and here it hangs. President Lincoln held our country together through Civil War, ending the most American lives that our nation has ever had to endure. The first passage of the Emancipation Proclamation reads that on this day of January in the year of our Lord 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of our state, the people whereof shall then be in a rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforth, and forever free. Although Emancipation Proclamation did not end slavery in the nation, it captured the hearts and imagination of millions of Americans and fundamentally transformed the character of the war. As a milestone along the roads to slavery, its final destruction, the Emancipation Proclamation has assumed a place among the great documents of human freedom. Members of this body, please join me in honoring President Abraham Lincoln, whose birthday is tomorrow. And I thank you very much for the time.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Quick 1-minute recess.
1 minute recess. Assembly will come back to order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So just so that members kind of have an understanding of what we're doing, so the AB 106 that we sent over to the Senate, they're in the midst of voting on that and processing on it. And then it's got to come back here for us to do kind of one last final act with it, which is mostly ministerial, I guess I could say, if that's accurate. So we're going to I'll make a motion for the Assembly to stand in recess until the call of the chair. And then at that time, we'll just come back so we can make sure the message is read and get it to the governor's desk. So I would move that we stand in recess till call the chair.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are in recess.
I went on our Facebook page. Write a post or copy link.
Testing.
The assembly will come to order. We can go to order business 7.
Senate Chamber, Carson City, February 11, 2021. To the Honorable the Assembly, I have the honor to inform your Honorable Body that the Senate on this day passed Assembly Bill 106. Sherry Rodriguez, Assistant Secretary of the Senate.
Thank you. We can now go to order business 15. Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would move that the comments from my colleagues representing District 8, 25, and 38 be entered into the record. And, Mr. Speaker, otherwise, I was seeing no other business before us. I would move that the Assembly adjourn until Monday, February the 15th at the hour of 11:30 a.m.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.